Welcome back to No Bias Football with myself, Terry Flewers, and the brilliant, but of course in pain, Henry Wright today. Tottenham smashed by Arsenal. Tottenham in a relegation bout. We've got to delve into that in detail today. We're looking ahead at Manchester United's huge clash with Everton tonight, with an opportunity to go 3 points clear of Chelsea, 3 points clear of Liverpool, and only 3 points behind Aston Villa. And of course, we are going to talk about the other side of North London after the North London derby and look at the title race with two big wins for Arsenal and of course Man City. And you saw both teams celebrating hugely at the end, and rightfully so. Do us a favor though, like, share, and subscribe. Get it done. Get it out of the way now. But Mr. Wright, I need to start with your club because I feel like Arsenal sort of broke you a little bit yesterday. I feel like Arsenal, that there was a lot of build up to the game and a lot of confidence. We might get something. We can get something. New manager bounce. I saw Abby. I saw expressions. I saw a number of TikTokers. I saw a number of prominent Spurs fans on TalkSport, on Sky Sports. And there was a lot of confidence you could hurt a vulnerable Arsenal. And also start well under Tudor, pull away from the drop zone. Forest drop points right at the death. West Ham only got a draw. But in the end, you were battered 4-1. You're only 4 points above the relegation zone. In the last 8, if you look at the last 18 games in the Premier League, and I'll tell the viewers why 18 games is significant, because if you look at the first 10 games, you were third in the league. From that point of being third in the league, where everybody thought he was working with Frank, and that was up to Halloween, you were third in the league. From that point onwards, you're second bottom in the league table. And that is 18 games you've been in the relegation zone for. And there's 10 games left to go. And if that trend doesn't improve, you go down. Because if the last 18-game trend doesn't improve, West Ham, Forest, and Leeds will all surpass you. So how are you feeling this morning? Because I know you don't, obviously, you don't want to lose the North London derby, ever. But this is different from both fighting for a title or both fighting for top 4. This is survival time for Spurs.
Yeah, it's fighting to stay in the league. It's exactly what it is. I mean, I said multiple times that I thought we'd get something, but that was pure hopium from my part. I thought the first 20, 30 minutes we dug in a bit and we just defended for our lives, and Arsenal were unlucky to not be a goal in front, or at least 2 goals in front. There was that chance where Vicario is running back to his own goal, not even looking at the ball. There's a chance Van de Ven makes 2 really good blocks. I don't know if you saw the body language and you've seen the video that's going around on the socials where Igor's telling Van de Ven to get up the pitch, and there's almost this sense of entitlement from the players, and they're just strolling around. That isn't a quality issue, that's a mentality issue, and it's almost like the players are going, well, even if we go down, I'm probably going to get a move, so it doesn't really matter. And you look at the fixtures we've got coming our way. We've got Liverpool away very, very soon, which, let's be honest, is a loss straight away. The big 2 games that we have to win to stay up are Nottingham Forest and Crystal Palace. But both of those games are at home, and our home record is we've got joint. What's really embarrassing is we are below Burnley in the home table. We're below Burnley. Like, it actually is. When you think your club's in a bad position, we are a lot worse than anyone thinks their club's in. Unless you're a Wolves fan or Burnley fan. I mean, but for a club the size of Tottenham, with the amount of revenue we make, it's such a bad look on the board. I mean, you look at yesterday, it was almost a free hit for Igor Tudor and the players, because like quality player for player, like when Arsenal are bringing on Odegaard and Martinelli, who both start for us, when they're bringing on Mosquera, Mosquera's coming on, who starts for us, like Arsenal's squad depth would start comfortably in our best team, even with the injuries back fit. It just makes it incredibly difficult for this club going forward. And then we've got to play Fulham on Sunday, which, they had a really good result yesterday against Sunderland. Harry Wilson with the assist, Raul Jimenez 2 goals. I look at it that relegation is actually a strong possibility now. Like, this isn't banter anymore. This is the reality of the situation we're in. And it's, Igor Tudor said immediately in his first post-match press conference that like he was already taking shots at the mentality of the club. He goes, what's the goal of this football club? Like, if a guy is coming in, he's been there a matter of 5 minutes, already questioning the club's mentality, and that should send shockwaves throughout that boardroom. But will it? I don't know.
Well, look, there's so many bits from yesterday from a Spurs perspective. There's the scenes of Arsenal fans celebrating in the stadium, and half the fans standing around it are just like mild-mannered, filming them, smiling. What's that all about? You have the announcer before the game, and I just feel maybe this is me in my superstitions and the football god stuff, and I want to make sure I read what he said properly here. But it was something along the lines of I bookmarked it, but I can't find it now. But the announcer sort of said something along the lines of Arsenal were scared, Arsenal were triggered, we're calm, let's go. I feel like that's just clowny. If you get where I'm coming from, it's a bit clowny.
Stadium announcer.
Your stadium announcer says something along. I'm just trying to get the actual. Here it is. Here, the stadium speaker said they're worried, they are nervous as hell, and we are calm, we are ready. That is what, as you guys were like doing the handshaking at the beginning of the game, and I just look at things like that. Listen, fans are allowed to show chest, but I've seen this week. I'm seeing Spurs fans singing second again, ole ole. You've been second once since 1967. I understand being shameless at times and a bit of banter here and there, but your fans have actually got to wise up and start putting some actual pressure on these players to perform, and pressure on the managers and pressure on the club. Because you are right about the Tudor thing. He's telling Van der Ven to get up, and he's like, oh, can't be asked. You conceded that second goal, and you just capitulated. You were gone. You were so easy to play through after that. Yes, there was the Mawani chance, which we can touch on, but you didn't do anything, and you gave up. And I feel like your supporters, and I do believe fans, play a part in how a club performs. I think you're powerful. I think your voice holds weight. And you are more interested in singing second again, ole, ole, to your biggest rivals who might win the league when they've got a bigger gap over Man City right now than you've got over the drop zone. And you're more interested in bantering Arsenal, filming their fans celebrating and laughing at the fact that City have more open play goals than them. And I do get where Tudor's coming from, because he's coming to a club where a large percentage of your fans celebrated not beating City two seasons ago, one that stopped you getting into the Champions League, but oh great, it stopped Arsenal from winning. You've got a club who care more about the stadium and the vanity project of it and having Beyonce and go-karting and the NFL than they do building a team that can genuinely win. The last time you had a manager that got you to a point where you looked like you were going to win, the bald and Daniel Levy was blamed for it for not giving him what he wanted, but nothing's changed since Daniel Levy's gone, as if Daniel Levy was genuinely the absolute overall key decision maker. Well, if he was, he wouldn't have got sacked, would he? He couldn't have been sacked if he was completely in charge, because he wouldn't sack himself. And I just feel that when I look at Tottenham, and I mean this wholeheartedly, I feel like your priority as a football club for the past decade has been absolutely wrong. And the fans that turn up to games, and I get why you're supporting your club, I get why you're there, but all you're doing is feeding it. You are feeding this. Metaphorically speaking, your owners are like a drug. They're like a drug addiction. And your fans are like the loving parents trying to do their best for their kid, but you're feeding that drug addiction. When actually, you should probably be sticking it in a locked room, locking all the doors and windows, and letting that bastard sweat itself out cold turkey. I think that's a better option right now, because every time you fill that stadium, every time you guys go, every time you buy new shirts, you are just endorsing this mediocrity. You spent more money in the last 6 years on Arsenal, and I truly think you're going down, mate. And all banter aside, no more banter on it, because it ain't funny anymore. I do think you're going down. 7-1 were the odds before the game yesterday. I put £1,000 on it. I'll put £1,000 down. I think that is almost guaranteed money, because your players aren't working hard.
Well.
Players aren't fighting. And it's a North London derby. You went 2-1 down. They went, all right, it's done. And as I said about Tudor, if you don't win 3 of your opening 5 games, you're done, because you're just going to go back into the same mindset as you were under Ange last season in the league, Frank before he got sacked, and it'll be the new guy. This managerial appointment, I also think, has been trash. The whole situation, from a large percentage of your fans to the way your owners run the club, to the terrible recruitment and hiring of managers, you are bang in trouble, mate. You really are.
Do you know what makes it like more entertaining from the rivals' perspective, looking at us? So between now and the end of the season, we've got what, 10 games left, 11 games left, something like that. We have to play Crystal Palace, Nottingham Forest, Wolves, and Leeds, right? Now, our record this season against teams that are around us so far, we've beaten Crystal Palace, granted. We lost to West Ham, but beat West Ham. We've drawn with Wolves. We've lost to Forest, and we've beaten Leeds. So our record at the moment is very much 50-50. Do I trust this team when it comes to a situation to win under huge pressure? Because that Crystal Palace game is massive. And bearing in mind, Crystal Palace and Brighton won at the weekend. West Ham made a point up on us. Leeds United made a point up on us. And if it wasn't for a McAllister last-minute dagger against Forest, they would have made a point up on us. I actually think right now we are a weaker team than Nottingham Forest. Like, bearing in mind, the best we could hope for is that they go really deep into the Europa League. Like, they've just beaten Fenerbahce. They've got Fenerbahce again on Thursday. Their fixtures are probably more difficult than us. They've got to play Brighton, City, Fulham, us, and Villa.
Look, and West Ham's next game is away at Liverpool, so that's a guaranteed loss for them.
I don't trust us to go and beat Fulham, Terry.
This is it. So this is where you guys have got to go and beat Fulham, because Forest are away at Brighton after the Europa League and West Ham are away at Liverpool. The weekend after that, again, West Ham are away at Fulham. Okay, you're at home to Crystal Palace. This is your chance. And this is your window of opportunity for those two games. But then after that, West Ham are then at home again. So this is where you might get a little bit of luck, because after that, West Ham are at home to Man City. So West Ham's next 3 games is where you guys should be pulling away. But that being said, that same weekend, you're away to Liverpool. Because I'm looking more at West Ham than Forest, because they're the ones in the relegation zone. Then what you have is West Ham away at Aston Villa. They've got a really hard run, to be fair. Then you're at home to Nottingham Forest. Then
they've got a bit of character about them. Like they should have beaten Bournemouth for the weekend.
No, I hear you. So they've got, and this is what I'm saying. But although that's why I put the money on it, because I just don't think you're going to win very many games. And I don't think it's going to be a case of West Ham in the next 3 weeks are going to overtake you. I think it's going to be slow attrition. I think we're going to get to about match week 35, and I think there might still be a point or two behind you. Then you're going to get to the last. Then you're going to get to the last 3 games, and this is where it becomes interesting, because they're away to Brentford, and Brentford by then will be playing for nothing. As an example, whilst you guys are away to Aston Villa, who are fighting. You then go to the 36th game, and this is the one that's key. 36th game of the season. They're at home to Arsenal. That'll be a tough game for them. You've got Leeds. You've got game week 37. They're away at Newcastle. You're away at Chelsea. And then the final day of the season, they're at home to Leeds, and you guys are at home to Everton. I actually think it could be the last 3 to 4 games this goes down to. But I thought it was worth a cheeky little bet on you going down, because you're the only team that's down there that's got good odds. Does that make sense? All the others, you're risking too much for what you get in return. And I just thought, you know what? In fairness, that money that's in that betting account was put in there by a betting sponsor years ago. It's not even my money. They topped it up in there for us to do some stuff with, and we actually never ended up doing the brand deal.
Make the most of it.
Yeah, well, it was random. I was clearing out apps on my phone, and I was like, I didn't know I had an account with these, and I opened it, and I saw the money was in there. It wasn't actually 1,000. It was like 500 quid, and I did a few bets, and it's gone up to like 1,200 quid. And the other day I was like, isn't my money? So I was like, I'm going to stick it. But it is. It's in my name. It just got gifted to me. And I was like, I'm sticking it on Spurs to go down. But yeah, look, you guys have got to start winning some games. Because I think if you could win your next 3 games, as an example, then I think you're safe. Because I think if you have a sort of 10 to 15 point gap, you're not going to lose that in the last 7 or 8 games. The problem is your next 3 matches. If you lose them and that points gap's a couple, 1 or 2, that's where I think your resolve goes, and you just keep losing for the rest of the season, drawing. Where I think with West Ham, they've got some really hard games, but West Ham are a seasoned relegation battler. The fans, the club, a lot of the players understand it, and they'll pick up points in games you don't expect them to. Where I think you guys, you're not used to being down there. But look, viewers, give us your thoughts on Tottenham. Are they going down? Like, share, and subscribe to the channel as well. In terms of the other side of this derby, the Arsenal derangement syndrome, I'm fascinated by it. I'm truly fascinated by it. All week, they're done, they're finished, they're washed, they're going to bottle it. This game is too much. Come on, Spurs. We're all Tottenham. That's from Chelsea, United, City fans, of course, Liverpool fans. They win the game. They smash you. Gyökeres with 2, Eze with 2. And suddenly they always beat Tottenham. This means nothing. Referee, VAR, cost. I've seen the amount of fans I've seen tell Gooners for 3 years, don't ever blame refs, take pure accountability for your own performances. Yesterday, it was all about the referees. There seems to be a lot of bitterness towards Arsenal's win. You've seen Gary Neville telling them not to celebrate, Chris Sutton telling them not to celebrate, but yet the day before, all of the media saying, look at City celebrations. That shows you they think they can win it. That's what we need to see in football. The bitterness appears to be out. That Arsenal win, and I know that's why me and you do know bias football, because we can drop our allegiances to speak honestly about the game for a moment. It was a massive win for Arsenal, and I think you can see that massive win by the visceral reaction it's had from their rivals and haters.
Yeah, like it was when you look at with the added pressure with City beating Newcastle as well, and you saw the way City celebrated at the end. It was almost like City believed it was a turning point in the title race. And Arsenal go out there, and look, when it comes to a derby, form kind of, that's very cliche to say, but form, well, not in our case, but form sometimes goes out the window. So there's a lot more added pressure. There's a big rivalry between us, and I thought they dealt with it comfortably. They messed up with the Declan Rice situation where he passed it back, and I thought Kyle Marley did well to finish it. But other than that, and we can talk about his disallowed goal until the cows come home. But even if we got that goal, were we ever going to go on and beat that lot? I don't think so. They've got, I believe, what it takes to go and win the league title this year. They've got a favourable fixture in the FA Cup. They're in the League Cup final. They're going to have a comfortable fixture in the Champions League. And I just don't really get a lot of the noise from the media that when City do something, it's just kind of brushed under the carpet. But if Arsenal do something, it'll be like a major red flag. Like they deserve to win comfortably, and now the celebration police are saying you can't celebrate. If it was the other way around, and bearing in mind we have nothing to play for, I'd have been going ballistic if we won that game. Regardless of the situation of where Tottenham are in the league, if we beat Arsenal, we should always celebrate till the cows come home because it's a derby. And this season, I don't think we've beaten any of the big six, other than City. City's the only one we've beaten. So telling fans they can't celebrate or you're over-celebrating is just madness to me.
Well, look, I agree. I think, look, I didn't love watching City celebrations from a United fan's perspective. But we need this energy, this life, these characters. Imagine winning these big... Everyone's been talking all season. Wait until the run-in. Wait until the run-in. Wait until those last 10 to 12 games. Wait until the run-in. Wait until we get into the latter part of February. Wait until then. Then we start judging. We enter that phase. We see City get a massive win against Newcastle. Donnarumma with a brilliant last-ditch save to keep it at 2-1. Yes, there was some controversy in that game over Dan Burns' goal. There was some controversy with, Bernardo Silva shoulder barging Dan Burn in the chest when he was already booked straight after. Probably, in many people's eyes, should have got a second yellow. But you see those celebrations from Pep and the team because they believe they can win it. From a spectator of this league, that's brilliant. I see Arsenal do the exact same thing after a week from hell. 2 games they're leading in, dropping the points. Everyone in their dog bashing them over the head. Fans of theirs throwing in the towel. Even fake United fans like me criticizing them. Oh, Terry, I can't believe you're criticizing Arsenal. I do regularly when they're bad. To have a pop at them for celebrating is absolutely monstrous stuff from the mainstream media. And if people exercise what they say, you kill this sport and you take away the life. So both sets of fans should be celebrating. In terms of Arsenal's response, yes, I think it's a 4th win on the bounce away at your stadium they have had. But let's not suddenly again rewrite football. Let's not rewrite the fact that derbies are often levelers. Derbies can often throw form tables into the air. Let's not pretend they didn't start nervous. Let's not pretend that each one of their defenders in the opening 15 to 20 minutes of the game didn't make a bad pass that nearly set you guys in. You could see the nerves from the previous games at the beginning of that match, but they persevered through it. They made a mistake to make it 1-1. Well, Declan Rice made a mistake. Ironically, after shouting, everyone stay calm and start thinking. And that's why they should celebrate. Because I think this nonsense that's being pushed, and I've only really thought about this in the game, was hang on a minute. City celebrated both their goals yesterday massively. No one said don't celebrate because you might collapse. You've been a bit leaky this season. You might collapse. Everyone just said, well, you celebrate goals. They want Arsenal players to not celebrate and just think about the fact they might make mistakes. If they start thinking about making mistakes, they're probably going to make mistakes. They need to celebrate those moments. They need to enjoy those moments. And I think that's important. But I think on a footballing level, it was excellent yesterday. We get to the football side of it. I thought they were great by and large. Those mistakes at the back and the Declan Rice mistake, they'll be criticised. And I think that's something they've got to shake out of their game if they want to win the league. They can't keep making them and expect to not be punished. It's too good a league. But I thought the way they attacked was brilliant. Eze again, I mean, the irony of Eze being the player I think he's gone in. There's only 2 Arsenal players in the history of their football club that have now got more North London derby goals than him.
Yeah, I think and I want to say Aubameyang.
No, I think that the guy that maybe it's Aubameyang. I know the guy that's top is Robert Pires on 7. I don't know the others. I just saw. I don't even know if I bookmarked the tweet. I just saw the tweet and kind of read it and then scrolled past. But I think someone's on 7. Someone's on 6. I think Thierry Henry might be on 6. But the fact he's done that in his first 2 games, there's for you like it's a painful irony.
8 career goals against us.
Yeah, it's crazy. Some players just had this kind of almost like this voodoo against certain teams. But he was great. Gyökeres had his best game in an Arsenal shirt. Both his finishes were out of this world. But Bukayo Saka
could have had a hat-trick as well.
He could have done. But Bukayo Saka for me was a standout. Again, no GA, but a game where he was just constant threat, deadly on the right-hand side. Gave Jed Spence and gave Mickey van der Ven an absolutely torrid game. The only reason he didn't get an assist is because of a very small deflection. Although I do remember Mo Salah last season getting an assist when there was a very small deflection on one of his crosses. But yet they take it away from some people and give it to others. And that's why GA is a very important part of an attacker's makeup. But at the same time, if you don't watch the games, you can't always use, because if you just watch yesterday, if you look at the sofa score rating, because he didn't get a goal or an assist, you probably see him anywhere between a 6 to a 7 yesterday on most of those websites. But if you actually watch the game, he was an 8.5 out of 10. For the majority of the game, he was brilliant. And I just thought they did very well, Arsenal, under the litany of pressure that they were facing. But you know what's really crazy for me, though, Henry? I feel like nothing's really changed. And what I mean by that is, in the moment, if they lose that game, maybe they completely crumble. But the way people overreacted to the Wolves game is in the overarching view of the season. So if you would have said at the beginning of the week that Arsenal were going to win 1 and draw 1 this week, most people would have gone, yeah, they'll beat Wolves, maybe draw away at Tottenham. And nobody would have looked at that as unacceptable in terms of results and points. And yes, it was the other way around. And there are things to criticize and nobody's saying you shouldn't. But what strikes me is the only people that are really shocked by this, I think, are the idiots that have felt all season that it was going to be a cakewalk for Arsenal, or that it's a crap league and it's easy. When people like myself have said it's going down to the wire all season, it's a very hard league. There's loads of good teams that can all take points off of each other. This idea that one team was going to run away with it. I see City fans doing this whole, Arsenal should have left us behind. But that's because you're looking at it as you versus Arsenal and you're ignoring the fact there's 18 other teams in this league that are capable of taking points off of you both. And it isn't so much that City are terrible, that they concede chances and they've lost a number of games and drawn a number of games and conceded goals. And same for Arsenal. It's the fact there are other really good teams in the league. And the Champions League and Europa League and Conference League is a really good barometer of that, because look how well, by and large, our teams are doing this year versus their European counterparts. And and even if we're saying the football level of football has dropped overall, it's still comparative internally within this group of teams. So for me, as much as Arsenal deserve massive criticism for the collapse against Wolves, they were 2-0 up and they shouldn't be losing from that point. My overarching view of the season has remained the same in recent weeks, that it's going down to the wire. I've never felt that Arsenal, that they had chances maybe to go 9, 11 plus points clear. But you know what? Really good Sunderland performances, really good Man United performances, really good Liverpool performances defensively, really good Brentford performances have stopped them from doing it. And people want to turn that into an embarrassment for Arsenal. Well, I feel what you're doing in that moment, and maybe it's the football fan in me, is you're disrespecting the quality of those teams. I've seen Man United fans be like, you should have pulled further clear. Well, one of those games, you idiots, where they could have gone 3 points further clear was when we outplayed them. So are you discrediting our win? I'm not going to discredit my own club to attack Arsenal. That's one, I don't believe in it, which is the most important thing. There's no integrity to it. And two, why would I attack my own club? No disrespect to Arsenal. You're not special enough in my life for me to go, I'm going to damage my own club to make it look like you just bottled this. They didn't bottle it against Man United. We were better. They didn't bottle it for me against Brentford. Brentford deserved it, and they were better. They didn't bottle it when they drew against Sunderland. Now, Forest away, Wolves away, I think they bottled those games. I think they had the chances to win it, and they didn't kill it off. And they, especially Wolves, they got nervous defensively and made mistakes. But the idea that every time you drop points is because you're bottle jobs and you're crap and you're rubbish, no. When we beat City, it's because we were just better than them. And I think we've got to normalize that kind of conversation in football again for me, where everything can't just be banter 101. But again, it's not helped by Sky Sports and the media. It's why these guys will never have me on their shows, because they know I'll probably ruin their shows because I won't say what they tell me to say. But it's just this element of, so City can celebrate and Arsenal can't. So City can make mistakes and you're not going to talk about it, but Arsenal can't. Arsenal can't spend money without being ridiculed, but City can. You know, and even with you guys as Tottenham, the fact you've spent more money since Arteta's been at Arsenal than Arsenal spent, and it isn't being discussed, and you're in a relegation battle, just tells me that the media is so one-sided, and I can't advocate for it, one, on an integrity level, and two, I look at that as like a slippery slope approach, and one day that might be my team they target, and I just don't want to be accountable or have helped that type of that kind of media growing in football worries me. I grew up watching some of the greats of the game, pundits and journalists talking about football, educating us about football, being relatively fair and unbiased at times. And I just think it's gone. And I get fans being biased. I get it. And I'm not saying you shouldn't be, but it's when I see what happens is people go, I see people do this. I'm like, do you really believe that? And I've been shameless, bruv. And then I see the media talk about it. And then they start going, oh, maybe what I'm saying. And then they go, I'm going to say it more now because the media's saying I'm going to get more traction. And I look at it and just think, it's like watching a circus. It's like watching the clowns. Like, it's not real, you know. It's not real. You know, and I feel like we're getting a little bit sidetracked with all the banter. And to a point now when people make a joke, everyone goes, oh, another agenda. No, that was a joke. That was just me laughing at something for a split second, and I'm back to being serious. It's because everything now seems to just be agenda, but baseless agendas, and the lies the media tell, the lies they tell. You know, all we've heard all season is how bad Arsenal's attack is. And I'm not saying it can't have been better in certain games, but only City have scored more open play goals than them. They're the joint highest goal scorers in the league. And I sort of look at it and think to myself,
in the Champions League as well, weren't they?
Highest in the Champions League. Now, again, is it the greatest attack of all time? No. Is it the most beautiful football of all time? No. But the way it's been kind of manipulated into dog shit is crap, which then means if the best team in England are that bad, what does that say about the rest of us? And I'm just not prepared to sit here and go, the whole of English football is dog shit. I don't believe it. So, yeah, I push back against it personally.
Yeah, I think I'm just double checking. I think they're the highest in the Champions League. Yeah, so the Champions League, they played 8 games. They won all 8. They scored 23, which was 1 more than Barcelona, 1 more than Bayern Munich, 3 more than Liverpool. And they scored 8 more goals than City in the Champions League. So collectively this season, if you look at all the English teams combined in the Premier League that are in Europe, they are the highest scorer. So, like you just said, I think he's bang on the money. If their attack is that bad, I mean, what does that say about Spurs? Like, for instance, we have only got 17 in the Champions League. So they've scored 6 more goals than us. And we've played Bodo Glimt, we've played Villarreal, we've played Copenhagen, we've played Monaco. They've played Atletico Madrid, they've played Bayern Munich, and they've played Inter Milan, which are 3 of the top 13, 14 teams. I don't subscribe to all the bullshit, mate. It's just narratives upon narratives upon narratives. You know, like they absolutely destroy us 8-2 in aggregate this season. But it's only Tottenham. But we beat City earlier on in the year. But you always beat City. Like you can't have it both ways. You have to give praise when something happens, and you have to give constructive criticism when something doesn't happen. And that's the thing, the way modern football punditry should be, not going heavy one side. Like all the Arteta outers and you know all the Standards FC lot, you can see that a lot of them were happy they beat us. But I guarantee you, if they don't get the right result against who they play next, Chelsea, it will be up. We've bottled the league in. Up. We've bottled the league in. Not the fact that Chelsea could actually come to the Emirates and get something because they are a very good team. I don't think they will. But I don't subscribe to a lot of the narratives, mate. Like, for instance, tonight, Man United could quite easily close the gap on the top three. The narrative will be, but Everton are poor at home. Everton's record it's a new stadium. You can't really judge Man United on that. Like, I just don't subscribe to all these narratives.
No, look, I think everybody's just. We had Quest come on our show on Match Reaction about Chelsea, and I can tell he's like frustrated with Chelsea's draw, but he's like, I'm not going to panic. And I sort of agree with him. But then he's like, there's this balance. And I realized something this weekend, and maybe I should have realized it sooner. Maybe I already knew, but didn't articulate it. That being balanced is now seen as you're a bit of a circus freak. You're a little bit of you're like the Victorian freak show because you're balanced. Mm. What I mean by that is, like, it's seen as weird that you can criticize but still believe. It's seen as you can criticize but still support. It's seen as you can be angry but not panic about the overall season. I want to beat Everton tonight, but I don't think our hopes of top four are finished if we don't win. That's an exaggeration. But it feels that every weekend, a loss or a draw, it's done, it's over, it's finished. And I kind of you get those reactions in the moment, but it's when I hear grown adults 3 or 4 days later speaking like that, I just think to myself, come on, mate, calm down a little bit. But on the top four race, I mean, Chelsea feel like they've opened a little bit of a door for. I know that top 5 is probably going to be enough, but it isn't a guarantee. You never quite know with UEFA. But the crazy stat this weekend, Chelsea have as many red cards, 6, in the league this year as they do home wins, 6. But they drop points to both Leeds and Burnley at home from winning positions. And they now have a run-in the Premier League, which is very, very difficult indeed.
Yeah, very tough.
Looking at their next few games, they go away to Arsenal, away to Villa, back-to-back away games, home to Newcastle. Now, that Newcastle home game is sandwiched in between 2 Champions League matches that we spoke about the other day. That could actually be against Newcastle, but it could be against PSG. Then they're away to Everton, and then they're home to Manchester City. I mean, this is, for me...
To Man United.
Yeah, then United come after that. But we just look at the next 5 games, the next month or so of football. That, for me, you look at that and just think, that's the acid test of all acid tests for the quality of this squad there, and William Rosenior to a degree, because the rotation is going to come in here. They've also got an away game against Wrexham in the FA Cup in this period too. I feel like these next 5 games, including the Champions League and FA Cup match, so 8 games in totality, I feel like this is a season-defining period for Chelsea.
Yeah, I think you're paying on the money. Like, that run of games between now and the 18th of April, Man United, Man City, Newcastle, Villa and Arsenal, I don't think they'll go to the Emirates and win on Sunday. And because they're, as well as Liverpool, both of those are in Europe and they're both still in the FA Cup, I almost make Man United the favourites to finish inside the top 4. Top 5 should be enough. But at this moment in time, I think Liverpool will get it. Liverpool have got the easier fixtures. Liverpool are, somewhat starting to turn the corner now. They've won 2 games in a row, 3 if you include the Cup. They also beat Newcastle before the City defeat. And they've got Wolves, West Ham, us, Brighton and Fulham. And that's a run of games where I think Liverpool could quite easily go on a run. I look at Chelsea and I think you can't will be winning against Leeds and Burnley and completely capitulate. Like, to have only 6 home wins in the league this season for a club the size of Chelsea is absolutely unacceptable. In the home chart, they're in 8th. They've won 6 of 14, but they've drawn 5. It's the draws that are killing them. They've drawn more home games than anyone inside the top 12 other than Sunderland. They've drawn more games at home than pretty much, Brighton, Palace, and Sunderland are the only teams in the league that have drawn more games at home, and that's killing them. And like we could talk about mentality about their players a lot, because 6 red cards is disastrous. But you could see Cole Palmer's reaction when he got subbed off. I made a TikTok on it over the weekend. I think he wants out of that football club. and I think he's destined to go to your lot. I think he's unhappy. You could it's a team sport, and he probably shouldn't have been subbed off, but you could see his reaction. He looked absolutely infuriated when he went off, and then obviously they should have lost that game because Burnley had a huge chance at the end when it was 1-1, and I don't want to say they scraped a draw, but at the end it was getting extremely nervous. I mean, Burnley come away with what? Burnley had more shots on target than Chelsea. Like that should be alarm bells all around Stamford Bridge.
Do you know what? Like I'll defend Chelsea in certain areas. I'll criticize them in others. And I think what we're seeing at the moment is a team that doesn't have enough quality and experience combined. And I see a lot of Chelsea fans go, well, Tosin's experienced and he's rubbish. Yet Reece James is experienced and Sanchez are experienced and they're doing well. But I think this is what happens when there's probably a phrase for this that a more intelligent person than me would know. That's probably some type of fallacy within that. But it's a reductionist view for me, which is you're taking an overarching point and you're giving an example, like one example that disproves it. But no one is saying you don't have some high quality players and some high quality experienced players. The point is you don't have enough of them. So young players are almost by definition inexperienced because they're learning their game still. They often can be up and down. Yeah, even when you go back and look at Cristiano's and Rooney's and Ronaldo's, even if you go and watch Yamal play, there are loads of times still where he's inconsistent because he's young and he's learning. And this idea that an Esteval, even a Palmer, in his first couple of years, he's going to be this flawless player consistently at 7.5, 8 out of 10 is crazy. Because even the most experienced of players don't do that. You're still going to have down periods, but young players, it's normal for them. What I see in a lot of their games, when they drew with Leeds, you started seeing like panic. So Leeds put the pressure on. And you started seeing those either the young players or the guys that aren't good enough. You just see panic set into them because they know their standard. They know where they're at, or they've not been in these experiences before. And this is where I feel sorry for Liam Rosenior, the same as I felt sorry for Maresca. This summer is massive for Chelsea because they need to go out and get more Reece Jameses. They need to go out and get more Caicedos. They need to go out and get more João Pedros. Very, very good players to potentially world-class players who have experience in the game. Someone like they may not want a midfielder, but a Tonali would be excellent. An Elliot Anderson, young, but you see how good he is. He's a level up. Now, they might not need midfielders, but I'm talking across the park. They would be a shoo-in for top four for me if they in January went and got Semenyo and Gahey. They'd have been a shoo-in for me when you go and do that. And I think they've got to address it. But they can't do anything about that right now. It's about how they get through this period. And I'll be honest with you, this isn't me sitting on the fence. I've got no idea how they're going to do. They could get a point away at Arsenal, beat Aston Villa away, beat Newcastle at home, beat Everton at home, and then draw with City. And we go, bloody hell, that's a really good run there. They'd be walking away with 9, 10, 11 points in the top four, knock out whoever in the Champions League, and we go, well, look at that. Rosenior and this team have galvanized at exactly the right time. I wouldn't sit here and go, I cannot believe that, because there is some talent in there. Can they nurture it? Can they put a run together at this point? But would I also be shocked if they lost to Arsenal, drew away at Villa, drew at home to Newcastle, lost to Everton and lost to Man City and got knocked out the Champions League by PSG? Would I sit here and go, I can't believe that's happened? No. And I don't know how to articulate this, but that shows where Chelsea are as a football team. Because if that happened to Arsenal, that latter run, if that happened to City, you go, bloody hell, that's a really bad run. But with this Chelsea team, you don't always know what's going to happen in a game. They can look brilliant and comfortable, and then they fall apart. Then you look at how they played against Barcelona, how they played against PSG this year. Amazing. How they played against Arsenal with 10 men. I mean, Caicedo let them down. And then you've got the other side of the mentality, which is the discipline. They're one red card away in the Premier League from being the most red-carded team, joint most red-carded team in history. If they were to get 2 more by the end of the season, no team ever in the league would have had more red cards than them in a single season. And that's something they have to massively address. Arsenal, funnily enough, last season were on 6 as well. And that was a big talking point around why their season fell apart, because there was 2 or 3 games they would have probably won with 11 men. They would have stayed closer to Liverpool. Maybe they would have stayed in the title race longer. Who knows? But I think if City's lack of quality and lack of discipline ends up costing them a Champions League place, it's going to be so damaging for their products. I hope what you say about Palmer's true. I'm not sure if it is, but I hope it's true. I hope he wants out. I hope he wants to come to United because I think he's an absolute phenomenal talent.
But do you not think they've got to start challenging soon? Like, you can't spend billions of pounds and they're miles of challenging for a league title. A player like that's going to be looking around going, well, hang on, what, like...
Well, I don't disagree. No, I don't disagree. And I think, again, if they get back into the Champions League this year, do well in the Champions League, win the FA Cup, I'm looking from a positive side. I don't think Palmer will have any desire to leave. But if Wrexham knock them out, PSG knock them out, and they end up finishing 6th after becoming world champions and getting back into the Champions League, I just don't think it's inconceivable that a Palmer would turn around to his agent and say, look, we can find a way out of here. Let's look at it. Because I know he's not old. He's only still in his early 20s. But he may look at it and go, well, who are we going to buy? And again, as Chelsea turn around and say, listen, we're going to go out this summer and we're buying 3 or 4 more new young talents. Maybe Palmer looks at it and goes, what, more kids instead of more experience? Especially then if you look at, Liverpool change their manager and buy more experience. Man United go, right, there's Tonali, there's Anderson, I'm just making names up that are doing well at the minute, but there's Thiago, there's Bastoni, and there's a top wingback, DeMarco comes in. I'm just putting out names of really good players. If United went and did that and they go out and sign 4 18-year-olds, again, is it inconceivable a Palmer would say, I want to leave? No. So, look, listen, there's a long way to go. I'm not writing Chelsea off by any means. United tonight, though, we have a chance to go 3 points clear of them, 3 points clear of Liverpool. Everton away, look, it's a tough game. I'm not going to sit here and say it's going to be easy for us. It isn't. I am nervous about it now. That being said, Everton's home form is the 14th. They're 14th in the home form in the league.
I think you win.
They sit 14th. So for me, I look at that being said, our away form, I'm just looking at it here. We are 9th for away form. Interestingly, if we win tonight, we go 4th for away form, which is kind of crazy. The jump would be that high. But I think we can win. I feel like we've got some confidence. I think we've got to start Šeško in the game. This is going to be another match where we're going to have to cross the ball into the box. And I feel that if we start with Mbeumo, we might waste 45 minutes because I feel they're going to be really compact. And we need to get early crosses into the box to, again, one of the most informed strikers in the league right now in Benjamin Šeško. And I feel if we'd have started him against West Ham, I think we win the game. Because in the first half, they were no threat. We got the ball into great areas, but every time our wingers or our fullbacks looked up to cross the ball, Mbeumo and the likes and Cunha, they were on the edge of the box because that's where they like to be. It's a bit like watching Newcastle with Waldemar. I watch him play and I think he does some really good things. And then they get the ball out wide and you look up and their number 9 is on the edge of the box waiting for the ball instead of making a run, where Šeško will get himself into those goal scoring areas. So we need to do that tonight. But I'm quietly confident. I never over egg it. It's just not my way. I'm quietly confident we can win. That could be 5 wins out of 6. And to have that what would also be nice about a win today, just looking at from a United perspective, is a win would put us 3 points above Liverpool in 6, and it would put us into 4th place and 3 points above Chelsea. But it would also put us 8 points above Brentford. It would put us 10 points above Bournemouth. And I think there's a real comfortability factor in there that we're actually not guaranteed European football, because 6th place is probably going to get you the sort of Europa League spot this year. But you're getting to a point where a couple of more wins on the bounce, and we might be looked at as a shoe-in for some European football, which I think is key for us. So, yeah, a really big and important. And we're at home to Crystal Palace the next game, which, again, I know you can't. It's too early to do a prediction, but I feel if we beat Everton, I think we win that game. And by then, I look at it, Bournemouth are playing Sunderland, Burnley, Brentford. I look at it and go, we might
play each other, aren't they?
Yeah, a lot of them are like playing each other. We can win I think if we could win our next 2 to 3 games on the bounce again for United now, I think we're guaranteed for Europa League football and a very good chance of Champions League football. And that was sort of the aim at the beginning of the season. And I wouldn't even be looking at Chelsea, Liverpool either, by the way. But really what we should be doing is looking at Villa and saying, if we win, we're 3 points behind them. We're 3 points behind them with them starting back in Europe. And you look at it and go...
Played them as well soon, haven't you?
Yeah, because my claim on it is this. If Man United can finish above Aston Villa, we will be in the Champions League next year. I feel like it's an absolute guarantee we'll be in the Champions League if we're able to do that. But look, viewers, we'd love to get your predictions on tonight's game, Man United versus Everton. Let us know. Henry, always a pleasure, mate, to sit and speak football with you. We better make the most of it for the rest of this season.
Yeah, I'm going to have to start looking for a new job, mate.
Listen, everyone who's tuned in, thank you. Take care. Goodbye. God bless. And we're going to see you all again very, very soon. Peace.